So I'm looking for day-old larva. So you saw the difference between a 1 day old and a 3 day old. Yeah. And this grafting tool actually goes into the bottom of the royal jelly, like underneath it. That one. And sometimes when you go to pick them up, they roll. So in that case, you just abandon it and go on to the next one, because they drown. They drown if they get rolled.
Okay.
They have a little flap on the side of their head that they breathe out of when they're sitting in royal jelly. And if they get rolled, when you pick them up, then they'll drown when you go to set them down. They'll drown in the royal jelly. So basically, that when I go to look for frames to graft from, I look for dark, like my black plastic frames, because I can see them better. And then I'm looking for frames that have eggs on there, and eggs and day-old larva. It's an egg for 3 days and it's a larva on day number 4. So you saw the final result on that one.
Yes,
it was 35 of them out of 50. They only will accept the ones that are laying correctly in the bottom of this.
It was actually 38 out of 50, but if you want to give yourself a
38 out of 50.
Yeah, it was 38. It wasn't 35.
So that means I set 38 down correctly.
Yes.
In the bottom there.
Yes.
So otherwise, if you roll it, they just automatically decline to accept it, and they won't even start the cell because it'll die right off the bat. So the microscope makes everything so much easier. I mean, I was doing this.
You were doing this just by eyeballing it?
Yep.
Dude.
With a flashlight. I have a one of those LED flashlights.
Yeah.
Like a little teeny. Here it is, right here. I was doing it with this and this. This is a 50X.
Okay.
Yeah. For years. For probably 4 years, like that.
Yeah.
You know, microscopes are expensive. So this one cost me $800. $800 setup. With the lights and the LED bar and all that stuff. And, it paid for itself on day one. Makes it so much easier. So, looking here's one. This frame didn't really have a lot of. I was kind of in a hurry because I wanted to get in here to do this with you. So, this one didn't have a ton of larvae on it, but it has some. It has. Ideally, if you're going to graft from a frame or from a hive, you want to feed that hive the day before you graft from it.
So can you explain why, again, why you're using day-old larvae?
So if you look at this calendar, the day one is actually the day that I'm grafting is day number so 3 days that she lays the egg. It's 3 days old on day number 4. It's 4 days old on this day. That's the day that I graft.
Right.
If you get 2 day old larvae, you're actually getting it the next day. And look at this, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days before it's capped, right?
Right.
From the first day that it's a larva to the 6th day that it's a larva. On this day, it's capped. if you get it when it's a day or two older, there's 2 days there that it didn't get the nutrients that it needed before it was capped. So that's 20% of its life prior to being capped that it didn't get the nutrition. So every day that goes by after the first day is 20% less quality. So the queens become worse and worse.
Okay.
So also, like when you do a walkaway split, they're using any viable larva that's in this area. So on some of the YouTube videos you out there, they say, oh, well, you should always squash the ones that were capped first,
right,
on walkaway splits. And it's because those ones that were capped first are the ones that are 2 days old when they started feeding it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anyways.
So there you go. And that's why you should buy your queens from Stanwood Bee Company.
Yeah, I go through a lot of effort to try and get the very best larva and make the best queens with the highest nutritional value, because it just makes all the difference in the hive at the end of the year. You know, you can see the difference. A queen that's not as good will still look like a queen. It's just not going to lay as many eggs, and it's not going to last as long, and it's not going to lay eggs as fast.
And these queens are going to be in
they're like
next year's nukes, right?
Yep.
The ones that you're selling the nukes next year.
Yep, that's right. So I make all my queens in June, July, August, all the way into September, because that's the highest drone population. When you buy a package, you're getting a queen that was made in April or March from California. And those queens, that's the lowest time that there's actually drones out there. So right now there's an abundance of drones. So these queens will do way better than those queens.
Right. And that's why those packages and stuff will supersede, which is kind of like what I had on one of my packages that I bought this year. It went queenless. I mean, just a few weeks after it was in the hive, I went out there and there was no queen in there.
Yep. They pretty much run out of viable eggs pretty quickly, and that's the whole reason why they're getting superseded. It's because the sperm that comes from the drones is supposed to last them their lifetime, and if they only mate with 1 or 2 drones, then they don't have enough sperm to go the extra mile. These queens that are mating right now can last 2 or 3 years and just be absolutely amazing queens.
And this is another reason why, if you have a small bee yard, you shouldn't really attempt to do a walkaway split in a small bee yard, 1 or 2 hives, because you just don't have the drone population to mate the queen properly.
Yep. In my yard, there's 400 full-size, double deep colonies. There's a huge amount of drone population. So when I make my nukes, I give them the best. I give them the best queens, and I also make my nukes with 3 frames of brood at the time that I'm making the queens. So that way, when she comes back, she has a huge entourage of baby bees to help her build her colony. That helps.
And what would be the minimum amount?
1 frame. I'd say 1 frame of brood.
Of colonies in a bee yard for there to be somewhat successful.
I started with 20 full-size colonies, and I was able to make pretty good queens.
Okay.
And I think that the queens have gotten better and better over the years. I think you can do it with less, but you're just, they're not going to be as good. So if you have 1 or 2, I wouldn't even attempt it. I think you're wasting your time.
So the advice is to buy yourself if you're gonna do a if you have to do a split,
Just buy a queen.
Buy a fully mated queen from.
A lot of people lose their queens in the middle of the winter time because they just stop laying, you know. And you spend all this money trying to build a beehive and get a beautiful hive going, and then it dies in the winter. And that's most of the failure is the queens. They just they run out of eggs and they can't restart. I've had a lot of beekeepers that have never overwintered hives. Like every year for 5 years, they never overwintered a hive, and then they come and they buy my beehive, and it overwinters on the first year, and they're just like, this is a totally different experience.
Yeah, and that's why I was here on April 1st, and he had people coming to buy his bees from Idaho, from Mount Rainier, Oregon, coming from across the Puget Sound over there on the Olympic Peninsula. I mean, it was just it was pretty cool to see, you know.
I
beautiful chaos.
Blown away.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind. And I delivered bees all the way down to Medford, Oregon and back, and over to Coeur d'Alene every week, a load of bees. And personally, I felt like there was nobody else selling as many bees, or the bees just weren't available. And the wildfires up and down the West Coast have decimated the beehive populations. So a lot of people bought hives just to restart because of the loss from the wildfires.
Yeah, we haven't had too much smoke this year. Yeah. I probably just jinxed it.
I think we have 2 fires going on in eastern Washington right now, near.
I have a friend of mine that's a firefighter over there that's fighting the fire over there right now. So I'll give a shout out to Keith Fall. Thanks for your service.
Awesome. I want you to try and pick one of these up after I get done with this bar. We're just gonna do 1 bar today, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just looking for the smallest larva, and you can tell really easy under the microscope which ones are a day old and which ones are 2 days old and beyond, because they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. They fill up the whole cell. And the ones that you want are the ones right next to the eggs. And the eggs look like a grain of rice.
A very small grain of rice.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get in there and think that it's going to be the size of a grain of rice. It's going to be a very small grain of rice.
It's got the shape of a grain of rice, yes. And it's standing vertically off the bottom of the cell. So I tend to pick frames that have mostly eggs on them, and then that way the ones that are next to the egg patch are that are hatched, or you can tell they're just way smaller than any of the other larvae. After a while, you know exactly what you're looking for once you've done this a few times. And then I go back and I look at them all underneath the microscope. Make sure they're all centered and stuff. Sometimes they don't come off the tool until you touch the sidewall with them, and then they'll come off. This one needs one. Oops. Oops.
That happens.
This one's got two in there. I accidentally put two in there. Pull one out, and I'll put it back in this other one over here. Or actually, I'll just throw it away. It's good. Good. Okay. So I got two that need it. This one here, and this one here.
And this is like proofreading your homework before you turn it in.
Exactly. It is. And the cool thing is I could never do that before without the microscope.
Right.
I could never really see them. I could never see them good enough to verify. That's good. One more. And then I'll let you try it. So I got this, you see how it's got this stand? It's like a boom.
Yep.
It makes it so that you can move the frame around underneath there, you know? Without a boom on it, it wouldn't work very well. And then it's got a specific focal length for the camera with the zoom, with the working area, which is important because you have to be able to get the high tool underneath the microscope.
Right.
So if it doesn't have the right focal length, then you don't have enough space to work.
And in case people were wondering what focal length is, that's the amount of length between the front lens that's down there and the eyepiece up on top. And it has something to do also with lights. If you got telescopes, you'll know what focal length is all about.
So once I get done with making all these grafts, I just take a wet paper towel and I throw them over them until we put them into like a warm wet paper towel, like that, just to keep them alive and not dried out.
Okay.
And they're good to go. Those are ready to throw in that colony in one of those swarm boxes.
Okay. Well, this is Graft in Queens at Stanwood Bee Company. Tim, you got any last words?
Thanks for watching the video, and if you're interested in my bees, check out my website at www.stanwoodbeeco.com. Thank you.
And get the best queens you can buy.
There's queens and nukes available on this show.
All right, over and out. Bye. Thanks for watching.